How about gum? As every schoolboy knows, it's undeniable medical fact that a piece of gum takes 30 years to digest. I'm guessing little Rusty here was a swallower back in the day, and those chiclets are finally coming home to roost.
Don't write that.
The Diving Bell vs. the Butter Glider is the 9th episode of Season 4. It first aired on September 12, 2010, and was written by Jackson Publick. When the episode begins, Dr. Venture is suffering a mysterious malady, leaving him in a vegetative state, so Hank, Dean, Brock, and Shoreleave shrink down to figure out what's going on. Meanwhile, the Monarch becomes obsessed with his new butter glider, a flying machine not unlike Green Goblin's Goblin Glider. The episode title is a reference to the memoir-turned-movie, The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, about a guy who has a stroke and wakes up in the hospital unable to speak or move. After much time passes, a physical therapist realizes he can communicate by blinking, which means that yes, he wrote a book by blinking. The Monarch says of King Gorilla that he looks like David Byrne wearing his Stop Making Sense suit. Here's what that looks like. Billy and Pete discuss Fantastic Voyage and Inner Space. Fantastic Voyage is an Isaac Asimov book which was later turned into a movie about people shrinking down and going into someone's body, and Inner Space is a comedic take on Fantastic Voyage. When Hunter says,
I am not letting those clowns shrink my $40 million, secretly funded nuclear submarine to go fight the fucking cavity creeps!
He's referencing the old advertising campaign for Crest toothpaste, which featured a team of villains called the Cavity Creeps that made holes in teeth.
The Cavity Creeps! Chris!
We make holes in teeth!
Quick! Warn the Crest team! Chris! Krusty's trying to tell us something.
And speaking of commercials, Hank and Dean recite lines from the old commercial for the board game Operation.
Butterfingers!
It's Operation, the wacky doctor's game.
All right, boys, that stopped being funny about 20 minutes ago.
It'll come around again if we keep doing it. Take out his spare ribs for $100.
Oh, you'll never do that.
Oh, I said knock it off already.
Don't touch the sides.
There goes his funny bone.
Oh, don't you start now.
Butterfingers!
It's Operation, the wacky doctor's
Here's your
game.
card.
Batteries not included.
Take out his spare ribs for $100.
Oh, you'll never do that. Don't touch the sides.
Here goes his funny bone.
It takes a very steady hand.
I did it. That's $200 for me.
Shoreleave says,
Hello? Sonar's lighting up like Tony Monero's gonna dance all over it.
Tony Manero is the protagonist of Saturday Night Fever as portrayed by John Travolta, who danced on a brightly lit floor. This episode features the return of King Gorilla, who was last seen in prison with the Monarch and is unfortunately now suffering from lung cancer. In reference to Billy and Pete's conjecture cycle, Billy says it's the best $10 million they'd ever spent. This influx of cash first came up back in Handsome Ransom.
Come on, let me hold it again. Oh yeah, 10 million Lodge. This is gonna finally put conjectural technologies on the super science map, huh?
There's a reference made to Dr. Venture's arm that was reattached by Billy, which is a callback to Season 2's Victor Echo November.
I made it to the panic room. Helper kept them off at first, but man, those guys were persistent. Most of my blood is on the floor, and the only thing keeping me alive is our lack of storage. If you don't come save me, I'm going to fire you, Brock.
You gotta try to hold on, Doc. I'll be back soon.
Brock, you're fired.
Unfortunately, though, it wasn't caught in time that the wrong arm was animated. The Monarch and Pete White realized that they went to college together and that the Monarch used to listen to his college radio show, which is a funny little moment for the two characters, but we've known about this since Season 1's past tense.
That's 'cause he's got a tiny, shiny chubby for it. Hey, fellas.
You were there too, Mr. White?
Oh, yeah, I was the DJ for the college radio station and everything. What's a tiny, shiny chubby?
So you and...
This is a pretty fun episode that introduces the new status quo with Sphinx agent Brock coexisting with the Venture family. The two biggest things that stick out to me about this episode are, first, I saw Jackson and Doc at a New York Comic Con panel before this chunk of episodes premiered, and they showed a clip from the beginning of the episode. And I remember everyone cheering when the Moppets seemed to fall to their death, only to collectively say, "Ah!" when they didn't die. And second, I absolutely love the moment where Sergeant Hatred saves the day by enlarging Dr. Venture with the shrink ray. It's so damn clever and perhaps the most effective moment Sergeant Hatred ever has had as the Venture bodyguard. I love seeing the characters pull off badass clever shit, and I love the Venture brothers. As always, thank you for watching and go Team Venture. Tune in next week for Pomp and Circuitry. If you dug this video, share it with a friend, and if there was some huge thing that I missed in this video, follow me on Instagram at Ventureverse Guide to see these videos a week early and offer your input before I upload the final product.